Hi there, and in this often asked question, do homeschoolers have to take standardized tests? We're going to explore that. We're going to explore what is really kind of the hidden message behind that question and how that will factor into the decision making that parents should be making regarding standardized tests. So in the first part of this video, we're going to be looking at state requirements. There are requirements that have been mandated by states and certain federal mandated requirements for school districts to be able to report academic progress. So how standardized tests factor into this, that you would need to check with your state and what those tests are, what they look like. The second part of this video, we're going to be looking at the value of taking standardized tests, whether they are required or not. Why would a parent maybe want to consider having their child take standardized tests? The third part, we're going to talk about the logistics, like how do you arrange, if you're being homeschooled, how do you make sure you know when your school district is giving required ones, how to get set up for doing those. If you want to take ones that aren't required, how do you find out which ones to take, how to go about getting yourself registered, how much will that cost? All of that is kind of the logistics of it. And then we're going to look at mindset, how that's going to factor in and why that is so important in kind of making that decision on whether you do or don't. And the value is kind of tied into your mindset related to test taking in general. So again, with state requirements, just about every state has some sort of requirement regarding collecting data to show academic progress. Those can be state-created standardized tests. They can be nationally created standardized tests. A common one that's being used in many states now is the NWEA, which is a university-created and standardized test that measures norms across age groups, etc. That's all done online. So there are tests like that. There have been other ones that have been done over the years. Your state might have its own. Some of the bigger states often will have their own, have been created, that everybody in their state will give those. But you will need to check out what those requirements are and what students could opt out, why they might be opt out. But in general, the vast majority of students, there is some requirement to take some form of test to demonstrate academic progress. And again, your state for homeschooling would dictate exactly what that is, but most states have some sort of requirement for measuring your academic progress. A second thing, though, to think about is the value of standardized tests. Any of these standardized tests that have been created are an opportunity for you as a parent, as a homeschool educator, to get a sense of how your child is doing compared to their peers. And that can be very valuable information. Nowhere will you ever hear me say that I think standardized tests is the be-all to end-all for figuring out your child's progress, intellectual abilities, their ability to do well in school, any of that. There are many methods to assess their academic standing, their academic abilities, but standardized tests are one of them. And the advantage of standardized tests is you get a sense to see where they are compared to their peers in basic skills that are necessary to do well in academic kind of settings, academic situations. I would strongly encourage parents to have their child take standardized tests because it also gives them a very valuable experience on how these types of tests are structured and how to prepare for them and handle them. One of the biggest obstacles students have for doing well on these kind of tests is their own mindset and ability to manage their own emotions in taking the test, and how their thinking processes work. So they can learn some basic structures on how questions are set up and why they're set up a certain way. And when you learn some of those tricks of the trade, so to speak, you will do better on those tests. So there's lots of test prep kind of books out there and resources. And I encourage those because it's very valuable to learn that thinking skill that's involved in those taking those tests. But by no means is it the be all to end all. It's just very valuable information to find out how your child's doing compared to their peers. So whether you have to take a specific test or what have you, there are other options you might want to do. Maybe you can take some others instead of what the state is requiring you to do. But the Iowas and the Stanford test, Stanford Achievement Test, and the Iowa Test of Basic Skills.
Iowa Test of Basic Skills.
So regardless of whether you are legally required to take a specific test in your state or not, there are a few options for standardized tests. The Iowa Test for Basic Skill Assessment and this Stanford's Achievement Test are two well-known, they've been around for a long time, tests. I mentioned earlier the NWEA's, that's a newer one, that's also been standardized, that's getting used in a lot of states, a lot of places. Those are three types of tests that you can have your students take. There are others that are also available that are standardized and normed for age groups. When these are given and when they are, where you take them, the ages and all those kind of things, you can find out sometimes through your district, looking up the names of those tests, doing a Google search on various standardized tests that you might want to consider taking. As kids get older, SATs and the PSATs, the ACT test, those all begin to come into play. So all that information is easily accessible online, where you can begin to find out locations, whether you want to be able to and can administer them at home, what guidelines are necessary in order for you to ensure that they are accepted, right? Because these tests, there's a lot of pretty strict rules around not having children be able to see the test in advance and protecting their answers and all that kind of stuff that's factored in. So, that's the parent's responsibility, or whoever's running the homeschool, to do that sort of homework in order to get the cost, registration, all those logistics. One of the big worries for parents in this idea of taking standardized tests is that their child will not do well, take a standardized test, and those low scores are going to hurt them. They'll hurt their self-confidence. It's going to hurt their ability to get into good schools. It's not accurate of how smart their child is. And these are all valid concerns. But they can be really broken down into two aspects. One is a child's mindset around test taking and their ability to deal with anxiety, typically self-created anxiety. What they view the importance of these tests on, what it's going to say, the pressure to do well, I have to do well, or it'll show that I can't get into a good school, or that I'm not smart, or any of this sort of thing. Their mindset is going to tremendously impact how well they do on the test, right? This is one reason why I advocate develop their mindset. Their mindset around learning, this is what I did for 30 years with kids, is help them shift their mindset and get rid of these blocks to how well they can do in school. And when you break down these beliefs and help them build a new mindset, shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, or a mindset of defeatism to a mindset of a champion, has profound impact on their performance in academics and these kind of tests. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they often aren't taught how to take these kind of tests. There are specific thinking skills, ways to think around vocabulary development, and just going about structuring your learning around learning vocabulary. Vocabulary is a big component of this. Writing, how to write well. Sadly, in public schools, we haven't done well at this lately. Homeschoolers, you have much more flexibility to teach these well. And there's lots of books and resources out there to help kids learn how to take specific standardized tests. That is very good skill development. It has very strong value in teaching kids specific ways of thinking. This might not be their natural way. They might not ever become a advanced degree kind of academic scholar, but that thinking skills developed at that earlier age can be life-changing in their ability to take those skills and apply it in the work world. And I don't even care. My brother-in-law was a welder. He was a boiler maker. And he said that algebra and some of these math skills that he learned, that he struggled with, he did not do well in school, right? He was lucky enough to have somebody take him under his wing to become an apprentice welder because he didn't finish high school. And those skills that he began to develop academically were invaluable, and he finally understood that. And when he did, it helped him in his career advancement as a welder, as a member of the Boilermaker Union. All right, so it's really important, I believe, to teach those skills, even if your child is never really they're not going to be going on and getting advanced degrees or anything like that. I encourage you to subscribe to our channel, like our channel, check out all the other videos. In particular, you might be interested in watching the video, how many hours of homeschooling a day. Check that video out today.